Alcácer de Sal is a municipality in Portugal, located in Setúbal District. The population in 2011 was 13,046, in an area of 1,499.87 square kilometers. History. Earliest settlement. There has been human settlement in the area for more than 40,000 years. Archaeological investigations have placed human presence here back to the Mesolithic period, when the first peoples began to concentrate in the areas around Alcácer. This period was characterized by exploitation of the ecosystem in the Sado estuary, when the river extended to São Romeo, involving fishing, scavenging for shellfish, hunting and foraging in the local forests. The primitive tools, made from chert, were adapted from the techniques of the late Paleolithic era. By the late Mesolithic period, people had concentrated in the area of Comporta and Torau, later establishing primitive defensive protection to support its communities. These principal settlements were abandoned by the Copper Age, but repopulated during the Iron Age, as was the case of Alcácer. Mediterranean trade, pioneered by the Phoenicians, introduced commercial colonies in Abul and Alcácer, where a written alphabet and currency allowed commerce to flourish. Roman era. After the Third Punic War, with the fall of Carthage, Alcácer was annexed to the Roman Empire. The region of Alcácer became known as Urbs Imperatoria Salacia in honor of the nymph and wife of Neptune, Salacia, for its importance in the Iberian salt trade and the number of routes that crossed the area. Salacia suffered many of the problems that developed from the Roman urbs localized between Atlantic routes and Romanized northern Europe, and was made incrementally worse by Claudius's initiatives into England and Wales. These problems changed during the 3rd century, when the port of Salacia was devalued in favor of Olisipo. With the rise of Gaul, most of Hispania became a vassal state of the larger empire, returning to the imperial fold with the reorganization of Roman territories by Diocletian. Salacia's role was transformed. In the following centuries, Salacia became a poor, distant colony of the much larger centers of Setúbal and Lisbon. The only exception was Torau, which continued to prosper until 711, when the region was annexed by the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus. The population of the hilltop areas of Salacia left in favor of the lowlands along the river Al-Andalus. The Umayyad rule on the Iberian Peninsula, in the reign of Abu el-Khattar over the region of Behar, which included Alcácer, was noted for the recruitment of troops, and for the rising power of Yemeni clans in southern Portugal. The entire region was later administered by Egyptian Arab troops that selected Behar as the regional seat. Until 844, Alcácer functioned as center for the collection of taxes in the lower Sado Valley, collected primarily from the Christians who chose to remain in the valley. The first Viking raids in this year forced a political reorganization, and Alcácer became an important outpost of Al-Andalus. After an internal victory over Muladi rebels in 888, the city was offered as reward to the Abu Deniz clan, and its keep was renamed Qasr Abidanis, commonly known simply as Al-Qasr. The village of Al-Qasr was the base for a large fleet and arsenal that was used during the Christian-Moorish Reconquista. In 997, a Moorish fleet transported troops from Alcácer to Oporto to support Al-Mansur ibn Abi Amir, that culminated in the destruction of the sanctuary of Santiago de Compostela. It was then capital of the Al-Qasr province, which by the 12th century was a center of of merchant traffic, supported by the opulent tastes of Evora. Muhammad al-Idrisi noted that forestry, and in particular pine tree harvesting, was important during this period, as was cattle raising and major agricultural cultivation. During the Almoravid dynasty, Alcácer became the administrative regional seat of an area that extended along the Atlantic coast until Trujillo. Cáceres. Crusades. Records of the Norwegian Crusade, held from 1107 to 1110, in the aftermath of the First Crusade, and led by Norwegian King Sigurd I, include a reference to the Norwegians winning a battle in the town of Alcácer, where they killed such a large number of people that the town was said to have been left empty, and looted many treasures. However, the Norwegians then sailed on to the Holy Land, and the town, with whatever inhabitants survived, remained Muslim. During the Fifth Crusade, when Afonso II of Portugal had a truce with the Almohads, the familial Suero bishops of Lisbon and Evora joined the Cistercian abbot of Alcobaça, the commander of Palmela, the Templars, the Hospitallers, and Magnates, in an attempt to persuade the Crusaders to attack the Moors in Alcácer. The regional seat of Alcácer had been lost since 1191 after several battles. The Crusaders departed for the Holy Land, even after being provided food, expenses, and rousing oratories about the Almohads' annual demands for 100 Christians in tribute. Meanwhile, ships sent by Frederick II to join 80 ships already traveling to the Holy Land arrived in Alcácer, and on the 2nd of August 1217, they were joined by Portuguese sent to lay siege to the castle. Muslim governors in Seville, Córdoba, Jaéquén and Badajoz attempted to relieve the garrison, but the reinforcements were defeated on the 11th of September. The castle surrendered on the 18th of October 1217, with additional Christian troops provided by Pedro Alvarez from Spain, as well as divine intervention. Once the castle was taken, many of the northern crusaders requested Pope Honorius III allow them to remain for a year for the liberation of Spain and the extirpation of the perfidious cult of the pagans. The victory in Alcácer also motivated Alfonso IX of Leon, Sancho II of Navarre, in addition to Spanish prelates and nobles, to break the truces with the Muslim leaders, in hopes that the Northern Crusaders would continue the campaigns the following summer. But the Pope granted only absolution from the vows to those who could not continue to the Holy Land, and the Crusaders left the castle to the Portuguese and continued on to Acre. Alcácer, which was the only true success in the Fifth Crusade, was transliterated into Latin phonetics, and Sal was appended to the toponymy. In 1218, it received its foral from King Afonso II, and handed over to the Knights of Santiago, who made it their headquarters during their advance into the Alentejo and Algarve. The Order of Santiago dominated an area from Sicibra until the Algarve, controlling the lower Sado, Alentejo littoral and coast of Cape St. Vincent. At the end of the 13th century, the order advanced to Metola to support reconquest of the Algarve, but later retreated to Alcácer and remained there until 1482, when they returned to Palmela, along with the Christians and the town's small population of Jews. The remaining Muslims in Alcácer began to occupy the low country along the river and vacate the castle. The Muslims, under the king's protection, remained in the community. In 1495, Manuel I was acclaimed king by the residents of the village. Slave trade. By the 16th century, the whole Sado Basin, where Alcácer de Sal is located, had experienced an important African immigration as a way to compensate for the demographic deficit that accompanied the Portuguese overseas expansion. Later, in the 18th century, a new wave of slaves was recruited to Alcácer de Sal to work the salt fields and cultivate rice, the two important economic activities in the region. A recent genetics study in 2010 found in Alcácer the highest frequencies of sub-Saharan maternal lineages reported so far in Europe and, according to the authors, likely associated with the influx of African slaves between the 15th and 19th centuries. Geography. Physical geography. A few kilometers from the city of Alcácer along the course of the Sado is the Reserva Natural do Estuário do Sado, which covers an area of 23.160 hectares, comprising marshes, canals, streams and mangroves. Human geography. The municipality is bounded to the north by the municipalities of Palmela, Vendas Novas and Montemor Novo, northeast by Viana do Alentejo, east by Alvito, south by Ferreira do Alentejo and Grândola, to the west, also by Grândola, along a branch of the Sado estuary, and northwest by the Setúbal. Alcácer de Sal is a historical city and municipality that overlooks the Sado River. Its medieval town developed from barrios that surrounded an ancient Muslim castle. Alcácer de Sal is the municipal seat, which includes two civil parishes, both having a population of 6,002 residents. The second largest municipality in the country, it is administratively subdivided into 4 civil parishes: Alcácer de Sal y Santa Susana, Comporta. Although a traditional centre of rice cultivation and fishing, the parish and villages have seen more interest recently with tourism, associated with the white sand beaches of the Sado estuary, and its proximity to the coastal beaches of the Atlantic. Its resident population is less than 1,400 permanent inhabitants, although throughout the summer these numbers increase with the influx of vacationers and tourists. São Martinho. Torão received a manual and foral in 1512 that later disappeared. The parish, 35 kilometers from the municipal seat, was the birthplace of Bernardino Ribeiro, 15th-century poet and writer, and has in the Trigo de Moraes Dam one of its main tourist attractions. A very interesting museum, documenting the occupation of the city since the Iron Age, exists under the castle, now a Pousada hotel. Santa Susana includes many white-painted houses, and is the location of the municipality's principal dam, Pico do Alta, and tourist-friendly water activities and forests. Architecture. Civic archaeological site of Senhor dos Martins. Military castle of Alcácer de Sal. Religious convent of Nossa Senhora de Aracaeli. Notable citizens. Bernardino Ribeiro, poet and writer, remembered for Livro das Saudades, one of the finest examples of shepherd romances. Pedro Nunes was a mathematician, cosmographer, and professor, best known for his contributions in the technical field of navigation, which was crucial to the Portuguese Age of Discovery. Manuel de Brito Camacho was a military officer, writer, publicist, and politician during the Portuguese First Republic. Francisco Gentle was a medic, professor and director of the Institute of Oncology in Lisbon, as well as author of diverse works on medicine. Rui Coelho, composer of innovative symphonies and operas. João Branco Nuncio, remembered as the Califa de Alcácer. He was a master equestrian and bullfighter, responsible for 1,000 matches in his lifetime. Maria Rosa Colaco, a writer, known for A Criança e a Vida, an anthology of children's texts.